Hello and welcome to The Chain, a series where one episode links to another by some means, whether that be the director, an actor, the composer, a word in the title. It could be anything. Last week we had a look at John Williams' score from 7 Years in Tibet. So this week we're linking via the director Jean-Jacques Annaud to this, Wolf Totem, which is scored by James Horner. Now, you may have seen in the little description that I put for this stream that this may be a movie you're not that familiar with. I wouldn't be too surprised. It's actually a foreign language movie. It's in Cantonese and Mongolian, I want to say, because it's actually a kind of Chinese story, folk story sort of thing. And the movie was released in the States in a very limited capacity. I think it was only out for a week or something like that, and didn't raise an awful lot of money, but it was released in China and was huge. So quite interesting there. And of course, Jean-Jacques, having worked with James previously on projects like Enemy at the Gates, naturally called upon him again for this, which is a really lovely kind of sweeping score with a few action cues in there as well. As you can see from this little thumbnail as well, it's actually a typeset score. Because of being quite recent. It was actually 2015, probably the last big score that James worked on prior to his untimely death, unfortunately. So I'm actually going to be working from the original Sibelius files. There's a slight difference in formatting in that I haven't got these big time sinks in because I'm using a different font. Or I don't have the one that they used for the movie, but you'll see it's the same files. So we're going to do a formatting session, something a bit different this time. If you are here during the live stream, then do come and say hi. I'm just going to open up the chat box. So hello to Michael, Tom, Chris, Pete and Joseph who are here already. Good to see you guys. And if you happen to be new to the channel, then welcome. Hope you enjoy this. We try and keep it lively in the chat, and I try and glance at that as much as possible whilst I'm getting on with doing some little worky bits. If you enjoy yourself, then consider subscribing. Great, let's get on. So I wanted to have a look at one of the action cues, because we've got all the notes in. We'll actually make a reasonable amount of progress through it, hopefully. So we're going to have a look at the Frozen Lake, which comes in reel 3, as you can see. So what I'm going to do is, so let's show you quickly that this is essentially a part score. So each line, apart from the horns, which are doubling, I believe, or would show both lines on the part. Don't worry about the layout in there. Yeah, actually that'd be quite unusual to show both parts, but to have the wind broken out like that, that's kind of nice and ready for making parts. I would only really do that if they were doing something significantly different from each other. So if we just pick up where they start there, you can see there's no real reason that they couldn't be on the same staff for the score. And same with the oboes and the clarinets and that. So what I'm going to be doing here, I'm going to switch over to a pre-made template, which I believe was for the Rocketeer, and we'll kind of work from there. Hopefully this will work. So we import a 9x12 template. Yeah, it's just a kind of standard 9x12 template that I have, excuse me, for my scores, and then we'll go from there. Let me just go to this and here. I'm going to borrow a couple of bits off of a Rocketeer queue that I'm going to put onto this. So you can see, so this is the main title. The reason I picked this one is because the formatting is slightly different in order to leave space for copyright notice at the bottom, and also I want to borrow that. Yes, possibly that as well. And just drop them on here. So I don't want the title up there, that's a bit different from my normal format, and the queue number there. You can see I have concert over the side, so I don't need that subtitle. And then that's my normal positioning for the movie title, so I'm going to keep that and then adjust here. I know from having looked at the poster and that earlier on that the official poster uses Trajan Pro, so I'm going to use the same font. And right, okay, so here we've got the title is free text, but what I prefer to do personally is use wildcards and then put the details in here. So it's 3M2 R, the frozen lake, and there you go, you see it's filled in. I do that because then I can use the same template file for multiple queues and just change the details in there. So that I want to be composer. That will go James Horner. Orchestration, Jack Redford. We'll just gradually tweak it as we go. That looks a bit large for me. The other thing that I noticed when I was looking at the poster is that they format it, you can see here, with caps at beginning and end of every word. So I might try that. I have this thing with the typography to try and match in some way or do something appropriate the way it is on the poster. So let's try that and see if it looks daft. Not completely, so I might keep that. And I may put those to uppercase as well. So we need to change this, and just a second, I'm just going to go check who the production company was first, because I don't know off the top of my head. It was distributed by China Film Group and Mars Distribution. Production company, see notes. Variety details on production, China, France and Mars Distribution. Long stuff. Sometimes you can pick it up off the poster as well. So let's just go Totem, movie poster. Sorry, I will. I can see the chat moving. I will read it in a sec. There we go. That's the English one, and it's tiny, and I can't read it. Brilliant. It's interesting that it's called the last wolf in a lot of languages. Der letzte Wolf and Le Dernier Loup. I couldn't tell you what it says in Chinese. I can't read that, unfortunately. Poop. I can't read it. What about the German one there? What does that say? Ew. It's too small. I can't read it. Okay, right, I'm going to just go with the Wikipedia thing then. So it's a China film group. Okay, and we're going to bring that down a touch. Right, sorry, I normally have a template pre-made ready for stuff, but I wanted specifically to do it this way around for a change, so you can see what I normally do when I'm prepping for the episode beforehand. So there you can see that 3M2R was what they had before. I'm going to change that to title. You can see there, so it saves you a lot of messing around. And the last thing was the copyright notice. Which did that go in? I thought I copied it in, but it's either gone way off the bottom of the page or didn't like it. Oh, I know why it's blank, because it's blank on here. So, right, let's grab the copyright notice. From there, Totem. Dink. There. That should auto-populate. There we go. Nice. Okay. Anyone still here, or have you all got bored and left? So, hiya Freddie, just seen you pop a message in there. Oh, sorry, a bit warm in here. Did I enjoy my ASMAC presentation? Very much so. Did you manage to make it to that, Tom? We usually schedule in about 2 hours for those sessions, and then basically run as long as the guests are prepared to stay, happy to stay, and still, as long as they still have stuff to talk about. And so that one ran for 3.5 hours, so almost double the length we'd kind of booked in for. It's pretty crazy. Right, I'm going to grab that, I think, and that, just to keep the sizing the same, and the fonts and things that I use. Yeah, good. Right, okay, so another thing I noticed there is that this score was set up with system objects above the horn line as well as above the flute. I prefer them to be in the traditional, above the first violins. So we go to appearance, system object positions, take off horn, it is over firsts. There we go. Now we've got those. Good. And obviously that's not sparkling at the moment. We're just going to call it tempo, and it was 160, I believe. Few other setup steps. I'm going to reset the mixer for Note Performer. So now, in fact, if I undo that, if we have a look at the mixer, play mixer, you can see the levels are all up and down. So they would have been set for the original SIB file and whatever instrument they were using, whether it be Sibelius sounds or something through Contact, whatever. But we're using Note Performer, so Note Performer actually has instrumental balance built into it out of the box, sort of thing. So you have this plugin to reset the mixer, and then it puts everything flat, and then you can adjust from there as necessary. Okie dokie, so using my lovely sticky note, and these are all the text markings you get on a mechanical metronome, and I find it kind of helpful just to have them so I know, like 160 is vivace, so because I can never hold information like that in my head, or I feel I shouldn't need to if I can just refer to something. There we go. Right, pretty much set up. Let's listen to it as it is. Oh yes, the other thing is I turn off live tempo, live playback, performance. If you read the manual for Note Performer, which I don't know many people who read the manual, but I do read manuals for things, and it recommends that you actually set the expression to Mechanico because of stuff that it has going on, and we set the reverb to Cathedral, and we get a nice sound hopefully. The other thing I like to adjust is the amount of vibrato in the strings. I always find it a bit fierce on the default settings, so I reduce it by half with a control message, 105, 33. And now you'll get my signature sound, hopefully. So let's all listen to what we have. you go. So interesting, that, isn't it? It starts off, very kind of minimalist, quite unusual for Horner, I think, in some ways. With that, repeated ostinato and the sweeping brass chords and things. So a few observations off the bat. You can see that it's the standard film score format of 4 bars per page, apart from a couple of exceptions where we had blank bars used for like a volte subito, VS, quick turn of the page into a new section, which you didn't want to start the new section on the last bar of the page. So we are not going to be worried about limiting ourselves to 4 bars per page, so we'll unlock that format in a minute, and we'll be repaginating as appropriate, really. The other thing was some sort of balance issues with playback, where you would bring out a tune, and you have seen, if you've watched any of these before, that I sometimes put in sort of hidden dynamics to bring out lines, so they're kept at the correct visual marking, but an actual physical player would know to bring out the tune, sort of thing. So we'll fake that. Percussion as well is named per staff, whereas I personally prefer to have a percussion section and then name on the instrumental line what is going on. So we'll fix that. And then what we've already identified with the individual instruments, we'll combine those into single staves. I think there's not really anywhere where they are doing significantly different things that would require separating them out. Like, for instance, maybe either where there's some dovetailing going on that would look cleaner on 2 lines, or in some cases you get lines which cross over each other in terms of pitch, so you get tails up and down but on the wrong side of the wrong half of the stave, sort of thing. It gets a bit messy. So I think it's going to be a reasonably straightforward clean-up. Still missing some bits. There may be some overdubbing stuff which is not included in that, or pre-recorded stuff, but that is exactly what went into the session. There is also a version 2 file, but I think that, well, I could be wrong, but I think that our version is the later one. Version 2. I suppose I'll just change that, but was it 140 originally? I thought it was 160. Sorry, I could have been wrong. Many parts. And I think it may have been balanced. I'll listen to the actual track in a minute as well, so we can hear. What we're going to do first, I think we'll start by joining these flute parts. So I don't think we're going to need 2 staves at all. Can I do view? I forget the shortcut now for. I want to do. Where is it? This is fun. Why don't I just do this. Focus on staves. Staff layout, staff visibility. That's what I wanted to do. Right. That's not hugely helpful, I guess. Right. So let's just sort out the flutes here. So we've got, that's in seconds. I'm just going to remove that. In fact, before I do that, focus on staves, I'm going to do select all dynamics, and set them to all voices, which you do with Alt 5. And therefore, if we do any bits where there's tails up and tails down, we can affect both voices. In fact, what I might do, I'm just going to step backwards a bit. So before we did that, and I'll focus stays, right. Right, so now I've restored that flute line for a second. Let's see it a slightly different way. So we're going to do select all dynamics, which is Shift Alt D, or you can get to it here on filters and dynamics. So Alt 5. Right. So another way we could do this reasonably quickly, I guess, is if I select all of flute 2 and then do Control X to cut, and then highlight flute 1 there. I can go no input, paste into voice. It was on voice 1, so from voice 1 into voice 2, go, and now we have all of that on voice 2 in that part. However, it's taken all the dynamics with it, so potentially duplicated dynamics and also rests. There is a plugin for removing duplicate rests, but we won't use that for a minute. We also need to change this to flute 1 and 2. So you can see it's actually highlighted to let me know that there are duplicates there. That's good. Let me see if there's where is that? Remove, no, delete, not there. It's in. There is duplicate rests. Remove rests, maybe. Simplify notation. No input plugins, simplify notification. Yeah, see what that does. Okay, no, that's something slightly different. Let's remove rests from a phrase and make it legato. So we'll just do that quickly. So hopefully this is not going to be too tedious for you to watch, but I'm going to clean this up. And then we'll get into how I do repaginating, which could be an entirely made up word, but it's the one I use for that phase of editing. So we've got duplicate dynamics to clean up there. And the reason I'm having to do double delete on each of these is the first time you press delete hides the rest, and then the second time deletes. But it's reasonably quick to do. How many pages we've got to do? 32? Bloody hell. Okay, but that also allows us to visually check for any issues. I forgot to do the dynamics there. That looks like a duplicate. That's fine. I'm kind of tempted to change those to SFZ as well. Just a personal thing. Okay, so here is where we got our first cut for page turn. So maybe I'll... No, I'm going to stick to one thing at a time. I was going to say maybe I'll do that now, but I won't. I'll do it in a minute. So we could save ourselves some time by removing the dynamics from voice 2 before we paste them in. But if we're going to do that, we want to make sure that they genuinely are duplicated across one part to the other, you know, that they are a match. Because occasionally you'll do, you know, a different dynamic for voice 2 versus voice 1. And I'll show you in a sec. The other thing that we probably want to do is change where we've pasted voice 2 into 1. We now have tails up and tails down for everything, which is not strictly necessary. Makes it very easy to show when there's unison, you know, when it's A2. You don't have to then put in A2, but it takes up a bit more vertical space, you know, so you need these tails up here would be, you wouldn't have them there at all if it was A2. They would just be tails down with one accent shared between the two. So we'll actually do that in a minute. We'll remove, you know, where it's doubled. So I guess this is going to take slightly longer than no time. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Good, okay. I guess we could, oops. We don't really want to worry about part. Doing layout for parts takes ages and is a whole other thing. Blimey. Oh, thank you, Tom. I hope you mean, yeah, the drink, of course. Cheers. Thank you very much. Well, Philip Glass is a minimalist composer, so it's actually a classical composition form. But yes, I know what you mean. I last night, sorry, those of you who follow me on Facebook will have seen, I watched the 4K new 4K release of Cutthroat Island with a good friend of mine. And there's a really good new documentary on there, where there are 5 sections of it. One of them is with John Debney about the score. It must be about 20 minutes long, I think. It's a really, you know, decent look at the music, not just the, kind of surface thing that you usually get on these DVDs and what have you. And it was quite interesting where in a couple of moments he mentioned influences for certain scenes, and during there's a famous sort of horse and carriage chase escape scene, and mentioned that scene, the score in that scene, was influenced quite heavily by James Horner. He really respected and loved Horner's music, and then they played the clip, again to demonstrate, and I was like, wow, how did I not notice that? Because there are so many Hornerisms in it, and now I'll never be able to unsee that. But it was good. I think that movie is underappreciated. Right, here we go then. So we have potentially sorted out our flutes. Sorry, brain freeze for a second. And I'm going to remove voice 2 from this. And I'm going to put our duet. And then we're going to scroll along. So this is still our 2. Then we're not. So for playback reasons, I'm going to put our 1. Because otherwise Note Performer will think that there's 2 on each of those notes. It does actually affect the playback. And I've hidden my our 1. This is still our 1. Sorry. So right here, rather than having 2 what's it like that, we're going to do that as all out like that. Then we don't get 2 accent marks. So now we have proper sharing, and I am going to add a Z in on that because, and it's a Z, not a Z. Sorry. Alright, same again. No, so that first, voice 1, dynamics, voice 5. Okay. So we're gradually going to sort this part out. You can see it makes slight differences to the vertical spacing. Right, should be a Z. One, but it all adds up. Got a rogue. Right, yeah, of course I need to go back and clean those up. Got little bits of slur. Okay, that seems to be okay. It really did tank so badly. If you pick up that 4K, which I highly recommend, it's a really good transfer. Right, here we go. Right, sorry, I need to remove voice 2 doubling now. So we can do it this way as well. Highlight everything and then go voice 2 only. Week gone. So now we're back to A2. Achoo! yeah, if you do the documentary on there, has a really good 20-25 minute section about everything that happened with the production of the movie. Quite illuminating. And of course, I'm looking forward to next year spending a good chunk of time working on that score, so it's going to be amazing. How one again? I spoke briefly to Jeff at Magian, who was one of the orchestrators as well, about the score. Oh, this is going to be fun. And he said that he actually did a special arrangement of the music for Rennie and Gina's wedding anniversary as well, which is pretty cool. So I'm hoping I'll be able to include that in the book as well. Right, so here is a weird thing with Sibelius, that now if I convert these to one voice, it's going to lose one of the lines. It just doesn't like doing it with tuplets, so I'm going to have to retype them in. That's not too onerous. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, all good, all good. Right. Scrolly scroll. Nearly there. So it's only taken us, what, half an hour to do the flutes. Wouldn't normally take this long. Nope. You want to do remove voice to thunk, thunk, to yeah, I thought you knew that. I thought you knew that, Tom. Yeah, I got the license for Cutthroat a while ago. Hey, whoops. Yeah, I was umming and ahhing about saying what I was going to be working on next year, because it would kind of take some attention away from the here and now and what's next, which is Braveheart, in case you didn't know that either. But my good friend Dan managed to tease me into revealing all on the ASMAC call. So yeah, next year is going to be wild. I am going to be doing Braveheart now till the end of the year. Then I guess if everything remains kind of on a easy 3-month schedule, which it almost never happens. But just to keep things simple, let's say it will. Q1 will be Shirley Walker's Batman Mask of the Phantasm. Q2, John Debney's Cutthroat Island. Q3, we're back to James Horner with Land Before Time, and round the year out with Star Trek Search for Spock. So it's going to be a pretty banging year, really. Some good scores. Right, let's see if we can let's see if we can bash through. Well, no, before we bash through the woodwind, let us do this, because it might speed things up a little. So now I've selected all. I'm going to go to the Appearance tab, no, Layout tab, sorry, and unlock the format. So in theory, there should be no... Oh, that's still like that. So they've done that manually by grabbing the handles on the edge of the page. So what I'm going to do here is reset position, school design. Yes. Okay. You want to play hard to get, P. So let's do that. The margin is normally, let's say just inside. How have they done that then? They've messed with this margin somehow. What have we got? How did you do that? Maybe it's something on, oops, on there. Gap before bar, no. Initial bar line. No, come on, how do they do that? Right, I'm going to waste too much time on that. The other one is reset by the looks of it. It's just this one. We've got 4 bars, but we've got a funny margin. Didn't think you could actually change the margin per page. That's interesting. It should be on 9x6 as well. No, 9x12, sorry. Strange. Right, okay. Auto selection, par. Ever considered starting a Discord? Yes, I have. We actually discussed it last week, I think. I'm a member of a couple of Discords, and one of the reasons I haven't started one of my own for patrons or what have you is just the amount of time that it takes to maintain something like that, or a blog or whatever. Even now with the Facebook page and Twitter and stuff like that, I don't do very much on there because it's just a massive time sink, and if I'm doing that, I'm not working on the next book or performance set or whatever. So I'm torn. I could be persuaded with a good argument though. Alright, I'm going to change this a little. Bracket them like that. And then if they were needing 2 lines, I'd brace them. We do the same with the brass in a bit. Let's see if I can quickly knock out the woodwind. So let's do focus on these 2 staves. So on layout, focus staves. Okay. So we're just looking at the oboes. We can see dynamics match. So I'm going to take them out first. Just double check. Yeah, look, whatever they've done, it's affected it. Weird. I will figure out how that's been done. It might be useful to know for my work at some point, but it's kind of annoying right now. How to reset that? Yeah, so the dynamics are all duplicated all the way across. Yeah, so it's kind of exciting, isn't it, next year? Been quite busy acquiring those licenses. Braveheart and the Rocketeer and one other I applied for on the same day, and Braveheart and the Rocketeer were approved whenever it was, November last year, almost a week apart I think, but that was after 4 years after I'd applied for them. The third title is still ongoing, and next month will be 5 years since I applied for it. It was great fun trying to plan ahead. Right, rather than paste this in, I'm just going to go, that's a second below, and get rid of that. Same again. That's a third. That's a third. That's a third. That's a fifth. That's in unison, so A2. Now we're back to L1, hide that. They're in octaves. That's a minor third. So we just got to put accidentals in here. That. Whoops. Back to unison. Still unison. Octaves. Yes. Octaves. Octaves. Okay. Oboe's done. Dunk. Then we can just remove that stuff. Hide. And rename this one. There we go. Nice. That was a little bit quicker, wasn't it? What am I looking at here? Volunteer admins. That's the way to go. Yeah, you're right. James was hired and wrote the song for Hocus Pocus, but due to family callings taking precedent, handed over to John. And that kind of gave John Debney his opening in feature films, really, because he was only doing TV work really before that. Right. So I think we've got cued clarinet stuff coming up here. So I'm probably going to remove cues. Maybe we need to listen to the audio so we can see whether that actually is in there. Let's do that, shall we? That. And what are we doing? Frozen Lake. Am I hearing clarinet there? Let's crank it up a bit. Could actually be hearing clarinet there. Let's mark that in. Right, we're going to do the same again, take dynamics out. Actually, we don't need to do that. We're going to do that. So then this would have been play from here. Two. And one. Just a quick rattle through this. Fourth. Fifth. I guess my question, Tom, is what would a Crystal Music Discord server, what purpose would it serve if I were not frequenting it or, being active in it much, more than any other kind of general film music Discord, which I'm sure is out there. I don't really want to get involved in something that ends up descending into chaos. Or mudslinging, anything like that. Right, so that's easy, nice, good. I'm going to just borrow that for a second. Hey, don't want that. No, come here. Go away. What is that doing? Oh, okay. That made it easier to grab, didn't it? There's something weird going on with the layout that isn't quite, doesn't seem to be behaving. Because ordinarily that text would not collide with the brace like that. I'm not going to fart around with it too much right now. Maybe it's I don't need that in there. No, that's weird. Why is it doing that? They're normally so nicely spaced. Yeah, that's more out there slightly. Very odd. Very odd. Okay. Leave it. Don't mess. Okay, so we've got a bass clarinet part which we don't need to do anything to because we're not combining that with anything. Bassoons, I'm going to do this thing again so that I can use, it's basically, this is a dynamic brace which if you were to need two staves and then hide one, it shows and disappears depending on whether you have a single staff showing or two. I'm kind of annoyed at that though. So that. And the three spaces thing is so that if, let's show for example, that second bassoon staff, so if we had two there, normally this would be a bit further out. But you see there the name has gone between the two staves, and if I hadn't put the three spaces in, it would do that. So it's just a kind of dynamic thing where you can see when you've got a single staff showing, it's spaced correctly against the one or number, but when you use a second, third, whatever staff, it's still in the correct place. Really kind of annoyed at those. What are they? What type of object is that? Staff name, is there no... It does move it across, but only that one. So we need to do instruments, instrument name, get between instrument name, bar line, let's call that 2.5, let's see if that helps. There we go, that's a bit better, isn't it? Maybe a touch more than that. It's all about the aesthetics. Okay, I don't think I heard bassoon and contrabassoon at the beginning there though. No. It does seem to be some kind of synthy. Oh no, that's the violins. Doing that. Yays. What done with my drink? My drink gone? No, there it is. Hi Dimitri, sorry I didn't say hello to you when you came in. I really like the Lady in the Water score. In fact, I like most of James Newton Howard's scores. Someone was suggesting that I maybe do a AMA, Ask Me Anything. I'm slightly nervous about that because everyone always asks the same questions. They ask me privately as well. Like, how do I get hold of manuscripts? How do I set myself up in competition with you? That's me paraphrasing, but basically, you know, how do I get licenses for scores and things? So, not entirely sure I want to divulge that kind of information. But of course there would be many positive things that I'd love to chat about, so we'll see. Okay, slight renaming here, I like that rather than S. I don't believe I hear those, so I'm going to take them out. No. Stuff. Okay. Let's just whiz through all of these, I think. Because I want to make sure I've got my svs and not sv in on everything. I can actually remove that staff now. Delete. Right. All looks good. All looks good. Can I bring that down a touch? Okay, so text crescendo doesn't do anything in playback, so I'm going to put a hairpin in there and hide it. You can see the hairpin starts on the next bar, so now the crescendo will start where the text says crescendo. Here these need to come down a touch to avoid collisions. Piano, that's all good. Swizz. Happy. We suppose I should look again at layout in a minute and not get too hooked up on that now, because that's partially affected by the pagination, so I won't mess with vertical placement of the dynamics just for a minute, because there's this thing where you want to keep things in the same same horizontal plane, but really that's only across the page. You know, if you need to on the next page shift things up or down, it's nice to be able to do that. So we won't start messing with that until we actually know where things are. See, we're missing an MF there, so put that there, or one assumes it's an MF. Got a second that can come out. In fact, we can now get rid of Oboe 2, Clarinet 2, and that. Yeah, see, that had come down to a piano. That would have continued at a piano versus the MFs there. So I think that's a fairly safe bet to update that. If this ever changed to bassoon and not contrabassoon, then we could join those together. So we're on the lookout for things like that. And my Sforzandi. I think we are good. So that there, do we want to check, was that Attu already? It was. So we don't really need a reminder that that's Attu. As we really must. Okay, unfocus. So now we have a nice clean woodwind section that's all joined together onto 6 staves instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 staves. This all matters because in a minute it may be possible that we can get 2 systems on the page. That's going to make a huge difference. We've also got this auto break on of 4 bars per page, so I'm going to change that. Because of the amount of triplets, we probably are going to be limited to 4 bars initially at least, without squidging things, but I'm going to try it at 6. So then you get kind of, you know, in 4 bar phrases, obviously you're going to get 1.5 phrases per page, but you get 3 per double page spread, which is kind of nice. You can see things kind of just look kind of a bit nicer. If you do 8, then it starts to get a bit squashed. It kind of depends what you've got going on the page, really. You have to eyeball it, so you can see that's starting to get a bit squidged. Let's try it at 6. But it will automatically put a break in if there really isn't enough space. And we can still manually put page breaks in. Right, let's do that. Piano dynamics should be between the staves. So we harp. So we got percussion salad. What I want to do is call percussion 1, and then we've got 2 other lines. That's fine. So I'm going to add 2 extra staves below percussion 1. Then we've got that nice dynamic brace. I'm going to set that to Grandcastle. Add clef where necessary, that's fine. And then we can take everything off there. Blink. And into there. Looks like 2 is taiko. And then 1 was probably snare or something. We don't know what 1 was. 1 was single line percussion, no instrument. Great. It's named suspended symbol at first there. So I'm gonna do that, and we'll change things as we go. Sus. Let's just fix the percussion then on its own. Now focus. Okay, so we started out with this as Grandcastle. I know it said bass drum, but it's kind of the same thing, same difference to me. It's big bass drum. I like to place my crotchet rests, quarter rests, like so, actually across the line. Whether that's right or not, that's aesthetically how I like it. We will need a GC reminder on every line, the start of every line, every page break. But we'll do that in a minute. Okay, I'm going to move that up a touch. I guess in theory that should be note side. Might want to be moving dynamics up a bit as well. And change that to note side. Right, so susp. I prefer to call it susp sim. And also use diamonds and crosses. Let's go back here a second. Right. So clearly percussion 2 has changed to being snare drum, but it's not really, you can see you've got snare and low tom on that staff, and it's not necessarily one player doing both. I suppose it could be, but unlikely. Oh, sorry if I've missed you going already, Tom. But thank you for joining. Hopefully you'll see this message afterwards and see you again next time. Right. So, the way I like to do my percussion really is to have a line per instrument and not per player, when I'm doing a study score anyway. So I'm actually going to add another staff below that. I know I've got snare drum, which I like to have at the top, suspended cymbal, taiko, grand cassa. We've got a triangle coming in, that's going to be positioned there. So now I'm going to call top line snare drum, next line down suspended cymbal, next line down triangle, and we're going to move these around. As required, so that needs to come down a staff there. That's going to go up there. Then this is going to go there, and on a low tom line, which we need to add. So let's do that. So we want tom is going to be above taiko. Toms, 5 lines, I think. Yes. So we're going to put that in the low tom space. If we find out we need high toms as well, we'll just change that to tom-toms. That's the first time suspended cymbal's been used, so I'm going to use the name in full. So we haven't done a huge amount to affect the sound of the piece, but you know, hopefully you're gonna get something out of this doing a layout session. Here we've got a collision that you can't hide the background of system text like that. A time signature. Sorry, blanking. So I have on standby a little graphic element, which is just a white square, which is in that folder, which I can use for masking. And it's just a bit nicer and easier to read if you mask out that background. You can adjust as necessary if you prefer it. You can, you know, just do that, say, so you're only cutting a little bit. I tend to go around the whole time sig. Okay, we've got the other instrument changes. So yeah, triangle was on there, and I want that with the standard head. Suspended Symbols on line 2 with diamonds and crosses. Sure that there. Oops. Splash symbol. Certainly not that. Cretals. So I'm going to need to add in splash. It's going to be what, a crash symbol? It's like it's more of another type of suspended symbol, isn't it? We've got a lot of low tom stuff that needs moving. This needs to go there and there. That was all bass drum, that's fine. Need to move this first, otherwise we're going to have an overlap. Anyone keeping track of this? That's on suspended symbol right now. It's actually the same, isn't it? Okay. Not quite sure what they're doing with crotals there, so let's add in another line. Instrument. So tuned percussion would go there, really. Which is where I am right now, I think. Yep. Where did that come in? That came in there. Oh, who knows what pitch that's on? We'll figure it out against everything else in a minute. So what are we going to do? Oops, for splash symbol. Let me so it's kind of a little what we need is probably what I've got as a sizzle symbol. So put that under suspended. It's getting complicated here. This is also more. Something a bit like that. And now, you know, all those rests are not on the line the way I want them, but we'll lose too much time. Well, we're okay for time. Maybe we can do that. It'll just look a bit more aesthetically pleasing to me. You see, it saves us a little bit of vertical space as well. Where it's the same, we could just have done a repeat bar, but we'll fill that in a minute. Let's make sure that is the same all the way through. Good. Has everyone gone to sleep yet? I can't see the chat window. I need to redo that. Yep. It's dead quiet in the chat. That's not a good sign. Okay. Right. So now when we go back to non-focused, obviously we've gained loads of staves. So what I like to do is, here we're going to start getting into the sort of study score layout bit. We've already joined our woodwind together. We'll sort out our brass in a minute. And we've now sorted our percussion. Right, so let's put some brackets in there. Get them looking nice. Going to bracket this how I want, which is across the whole brass section. Stop it. And then so let's do a quick fix on the horns quickly. So we want 3 staves, and I'm just going to cut those and plonk them in there. We want horn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we want an extra trumpet staff below. We're going to want an extra trombone staff below. So trumpet 2 and 3 are going to go in there. It's going to be 1, 2, 3. Trombone 1, 2, trombone 3. There you go. So already things are taking shape. So now we've got all our single stave instruments down to harp here. And what I'm going to do is press hide. That's interesting. I've still got a voice 2 thing up there. I'm just going to fix that. That. Right. So highlight all my single stave instruments down to here, and then I'm going to hit hide, and any page where the staff has no activity, it will hide those staves. We're going to start getting to a position now where we should be able to see where we can get 2 systems per page, hopefully. The reason I don't do the harp parts and piano, any grand staff instruments, is if you do that, then potentially you lose one hand or the other. And I prefer to handle those on a per page basis, like there we can see they can go. But we've got stuff here. You need to do respacing a few times just to see what's going on. See there. Now we've got 2 systems there. No harp and piano activity there. None here. But that's quite a busy page, so you'll see what the kind of next step is. Unhiding stuff again, but you'll see it's done with a kind of rationale that hopefully you'll agree with, or at least understand. Yeah, still no. So no, look there, you've got piano. That's why I do it, because you'd have lost the right hand of the piano, sorry. I may have hidden something that I shouldn't have done earlier. Right, so we're just losing harp. I generally keep the strings on unless there's a space saving reason. I don't know why, maybe it's favouritism because I'm a violinist, but there you go. That's what I do. Why can I not move that along, eh? Oh, that's making me sad. Don't know how they managed to do that. Normally it's maybe it's view handles. There we go. I think I can do it now. Yay! That's better. Now let's have a look. Okay, we need to be a touch more right hand page. 15. That's why I put rulers on as well, because you can be exact. Now that exactly matches. Yeah, I remembered how to do it. Right. Okay, layout section. So we don't want any honking great white spaces like that. That's not ideal. Let's so we do a few things now. We're gonna see where the phrasing falls and if it implies any page breaks where we should either maybe try and keep bars together or maybe split sooner than the 6 bars. Third trombone is a trombone. It doesn't specify, so I would assume tenor trombone. Normally they will specify if it's bass trombone, but if not, assume tenor. Tuba is a classic bass tuba also, I think. Yes. You don't normally need to write bass tuba. It's just a standard concert tuba. Okay, right. So now that we're starting to fix stuff up, I'm going to start moving dynamics and things. So that should be halfway between the grand stave. A bit more space there. It's a little bit tight with the triplets, but not too bad. Reasonably happy with that. So then you can kind of see that that's a sensible place for the page break, but let's listen. So yeah, I'm reasonably happy with where those page breaks are, but now we've got to sort out what's happening with this space. The most likely thing, rather than trying to squidge everything onto one page, or just change the number of bars per system, is this will end up on another page. So let's put a page break in there. Actually, let's put a page break in there for a second, and another one there. Right. So tackling this one first, the best thing, the most aesthetically pleasing thing, I think, is that you are able to read across the page without having to rejig your brain at the centerfold. We want to line up the instruments, so I'm going to start showing on this page the instruments which are visible here. So on the flute line, the oboe, clarinet, bass clarinet, bassoon, contra, all horns, both trumpets, both trombones, tuba, tim. That's bass drum, I think that's showing already, and then strings. Much nicer. And then I'm basically going to do the same here, because if we start spreading these out, just spreading what we've got there, you end up with so much space between the staves. It looks a bit daft. So ordinarily I wouldn't want too many empty staves going on. This is not a conducting score where you want everything to be constant throughout the whole book and basically show every stave all the time. With a study score you can afford to truncate things where appropriate, but sometimes it just makes better sense to show it was basically everything down to there and that. So it's just looking a bit nicer now. Then we're just going to check the spacing again. How are we doing for time? 10 more minutes. Right, so we bring those down to keep it in line. Right, so they're not in line with each other. Like I say, you're trying to keep a horizontal plane, you know, with the dynamics. They should be directly above the notes, ideally. You could maybe not swoop down quite so much with those, and then gain a bit of space there. Okay. Here we've got the text crescendo again, which doesn't actually do anything. Something to look out for as well, sometimes when you put a change of clef in, it can make extra space in the bar to accommodate that, but then you notice that everything else is kind of off centre, or you have a big gap on the staves, kind of there. It's not as noticeable, but sometimes you'll get, you know, that is way out. There's a plugin that you can use where you highlight the bar and then go respace clef change, and in that case it hasn't changed anything, but you'll find you have like whole bar rests where the rest looks like it's off centre, and doesn't work unless you've got activity notes wise right up to the clef. Often you can actually nudge it leftwards, nudge the bar line leftwards, and actually line everything back up again nicely, which effectively means that the clef is in line with notes in other parts, but actually looks a lot better. There's a case of that thing I was saying about centered text. That's fixed that. These guys need to come down a bit. Oops. And you want one of those in there. So now it will actually play back a crescendo. What else have we got? That's all good. Didn't really need to do anything with the strings except actually add in one of those. Did we have text crescendo back here? Yeah, we did. That just means that the text crescendo is actually going to play back as a crescendo. don't normally like to put things on. You see now that's on kind of 2 different horizontal planes. You've got the 6.25 across there, and then down to 8.25 step. But I think because of that, so these aren't too orphaned from the notes by being in the same line. It's not too bad, but it's better, I think, if there is a step there, and that is much more aesthetically pleasing and informative, leading into the dynamic on the same plane than if it's up there on the same plane as what came before here. I hope that makes sense. And some of it you have to kind of follow the rules, and others you have to use a bit of judgment and eyeballing the aesthetics. Okay, we've got about 5 minutes left, so no, we're not going to get the whole thing done, but let's press on. Hamlet van Beethoven, what? Oh yeah, so we need to label our percussion lines properly, don't we? So this should have a GC on every line, like that. So you know what you're looking at all the time. So here we're going to make the right page match the left page and show flute over clarinet, bass, bassoon, contra, all the horns, all blah blah blah, all down to there. Bass drum. Let's see if we've got any more bits like that we need to fix, which we can do quickly. So we're going to have some vertical spacing fun there I need to fix. So not too bad. So in a case like this page, where you're really running out of vertical space, you might want to pull a bit of a stunt and do something like grouping the horns onto one staff and doing our 6, because they're all together. You can see all the trumpets onto one, our 3. Maybe, well, that's not going to help an awful lot, but split the trombone so it's 1 and then 2, 3, so you do that and then add 2 on that one. Or perhaps even use an octava line on the first violin. Don't really need it for anything below 3, below and including 4 ledger lines you can kind of do fine, but yeah, then we're getting into 5 there, so potentially that to the end you could gain a bit of space, maybe from there to the end, putting that down the octave and drawing an octave line over it. Going to help with the spacing a bit. I think I'll do that with the horns. It's a real cheat. I don't particularly like doing everything on one. In fact, I really don't like doing everything on one. I might maybe take it down to 2 and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because otherwise you have to start doing the names in a different way. So, see, we've got all the numbers in that format. But if you suddenly start having to do, okay, this is horn 1-6, 1 to 6. Yeah, I'm not so keen on that. Let's do that. Horn. So we're going to do an instrument change to the same instrument it was already playing. But that allows us to change the name there. So I'll put 1, 2, 3. Do the same there. 5, 6. Take that out. 3. So we gain a bit of space that way. Do the same thing with the trumpet. Your last line of defence really is if you're really pressed for space vertically, then you could try an alternate clef. I've seen horns done with alto clef before. Not a massive fan of that myself, but it's a viable solution. Yeah, I might just move those. Oops. Or for a 2-page spread, you could reduce the staff size. And maybe take it from 3.5mm to 3mm. 3mm is a real absolute minimum, but you'll be surprised how much vertical space you suddenly gain between the staves. And you have to mess with the formatting a bit to keep it looking exactly the same other than the staff size, but you can get away with it. What do I enjoy more? I think I've said before. Note input by a long way, which is the exact opposite of my good friend Tim Rodier at Omni Music. He much prefers to lay out stuff and hates the note entry, and I'm the exact opposite. It's so time consuming. I just wish there was a button you could press and everything looked lovely, but then I guess if that were the case, then there wouldn't be an art to it, and any old bod could do this thing. And I quite like being in gainful employment for my ability to do this stuff. So yeah, look here, you can see that's not a hugely ideal solution in the end. We didn't read ahead enough, because now it doesn't split nicely across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yeah, trumpet kind of works, that's fine, I can do that, that's still the same. Still the same there. split there. So maybe, I mean, it's not so much of a problem on this page. So we'd then revert to trumpet 1. 2, 3, like that. Yeah, maybe we need to kind of undo that change. Keep that as is. Maybe this is what we want to move a bit. Here we can use the erase background there, so we don't need to do a manual masking. Still a bit of a squidge, isn't it? We should have that dynamic there, and perhaps we'll move it kind of there and erase background again. Like that. I mean, in that case, you might want to do a manual erase so that you only erase the bit around the tail of the F there. Let me do that just quickly. Graphic. Yeah, so you don't have a big white space behind the F. You just cut out that little bit of bar line. And that should go there. In fact, we'll quickly fix the harp and piano dynamics, and that will be the last thing, I think. We'll just play back what we got. So that was in the right place already. That may have been it. Yeah, that one and that one. Unfocus. Dink, dink. And you chink, chink. Any dynamics are you seeing underneath? Yes. So there. There we go. Right. Generally, you know, beginning to get into a nice shape. Got to do a lot of percussion naming. Let's see if we can quickly whack those in. GC, GC, GC. That tom-tom, there is only a low tom-tom, so we may actually alter that to a single staff line in time. So it's going to be SD Tom. Triangle. All these little layers that build up, how these scores end up. Let's have Tom. Maybe we should have had a snare on that as well. I'm thinking we probably should have. So, show. Probably forgot to copy that up. It's interesting. Where did that go? Oh, that's not a Tom line, is it? That's Tycho line. Right. Show Tom's. Come here. Better. Yeah. Let's put in that hairpin, hidden hairpin. Get that crescendo playing back. That's probably a horrendous note to choose there, especially given the. I'm going to put them on F. See what happens with that. SD, yep. Not sure what the shorthand for Crotal is. Crow. Splash symbol. Go with that, shall we? Hi, Donny. Okay. I think we're going to reset the mixer again because we've added new staff lines in. Make sure they're all nice and together. I think that's about it for now. Let's have a listen. sound too bad, does sound too fast, as Pete pointed out. In fact, I just checked against the original file before I started editing it, and it should be 140, which explains a lot. So let me just quickly open up my magic sticky note again. So we're looking at kind of allegro rather than vivace. So it should be more like not quite as anxious. Yeah, okay. Good, okay. Well, you know, mostly about layout, I suppose, this time. So something a bit different, because, you know, we normally focus on note entry and I dot away. Hopefully that was informative, kind of entertaining. I don't know. Yeah, but I'll play it back again in a sec. I'll export this to a PDF and we'll play it with the actual audio, and you can hear how it sounded after the recording. Next week we are linking via James Horner, and we're having a look at his score from the movie Flight Plan, which should be fun and a bit different. Different tonally from this, certainly. That will lead us nicely via Jodie Foster into a milestone pick from Patreon, which is Bernard Herrmann's Taxi Driver. So hopefully you'll join me next week and tune in for that. But for now, let me leave you with the final recorded version of this cue, and that will open up there, and we'll run this full screen. Okay, I hope you have a good week, and I'll see you again soon. Ciao for now.